In the original game this event was called Lantern of Wishes, Road to Freedom, changed to a Radiant Reenactment for EN. There is an interesting pattern on EN where Jack will be recharacterized as less abrasive than he actually is, such as having the line, "What does that have to do with me?" changed to, "Go on," and a line about not being friends with the prefect removed. This is possibly being continued in the Lantern of Wishes event, where Jack originally says, "In the end, no one ever came back to the counter. What a waste of a trip." This was changed on EN to, "There's still no one at the counter, huh?" And Jack's line of "Wait, tomorrow? Are you stupid or something? Get started earlier," was changed on EN to, "What, tomorrow? Are you kidding? Why didn't you start on it sooner?" This difference in Jack's characterization between servers is possibly why EN players are sometimes surprised that Jack uses more rude language than almost anyone else in the entire game, second only to Leona. And the same thing might also be happening to Kalim. For a small grammar lesson, here is a perfectly accurate localization of Deuce, where he is saying "Please get me out of here" in polite Japanese. With his verb form he is making a polite request and saying please, as would be expected of a student speaking to a teacher. Here Kalim is using the exact same verb as Deuce, but his verb form is not polite. He is speaking in a casual, commanding tone. He is saying, "Hurry up and get us out of here," but this was changed on EN to, "Please get us out of here." Kalim's original dialogue is not a request, it is an order. It is not exactly rude, but it is urgent, but EN has softened it and added please, which Kalim does not say. And this is characteristic of Kalim, who has possibly never spoken in polite forms with anyone and also does not use honorifics even with older house wardens, characteristic of a teenager coming from privilege and wealth who is friendly but maybe not very sensitive to social cues and formality, making him sound unintentionally abrasive. It makes sense that someone like Kalim would use such phrasing with a servant, but he uses the same verb form with Crowley. EN again softens his dialogue with please, but Kalim does not actually say please or use polite grammar. He says "Hand it over to us," changed on EN to "Please let us have them." These kinds of changes can run the risk of mischaracterizing characters like Jack and Kalim in subtle ways. Jack sounds less abrasive than he is in the original game, and Kalim sounds more polite than he really is. These changes maybe help English language text flow more smoothly, but they maybe also affect how different players are perceiving the same characters. Imagination comes up often in Twist. In Book 7 the characters are trapped in dream worlds crafted by their own imaginations, but limited by the imagination of a person who cannot comprehend the concept of happiness beyond the absence of negative emotions. It is a fascinating concept, the groundwork for which was laid as early as Book 1 where we learn from Crowley, the strength of magic is strength of imagination, using literally the word imagination, in English.
魔法の強さはイマジネーションの強さ。
But this reference to imagination was removed from EN, replaced by things like visualization and arts education, until the Glorious Masquerade event, which is possibly around the time that Aniplex USA received the scripts for Book 7 and realized that the word was more important than they'd thought. Whatever the reason, from Book 6 onwards it was suddenly no longer removed from the main story or events. But it was still removed from Riddle's conversation with Kalim. Instead of complimenting the princess in the tower's imagination on EN, Riddle compliments her creativity, instead. Originally Deuce says that he will be coming back to the library on lunch break in order to get a book, but this line was removed from EN. Originally Jack says, "The sooner we can get out of here, the better," but this line was changed on EN to, "The sooner we can get back to our dorms, the better." In the context of the scene, however, none of the characters are trying to get back to their dorms. They are trying to go to class. If you thought it was an odd characterization choice for the one person who has spoken out against needless gendering to be regularly referring to people by their gender, you are correct. In 5 different instances in the Lantern event the word boys is added to dialogue where no one actually says it, and the person on the main cast who has their dialogue adapted in this way more than anyone else throughout the game is, curiously, Vil. But this verbal tick of Vil's is unique to the English language adaptation and is non-canon to the original game, where he never does so. If you thought it odd that weaving was mentioned at first but then never again without any resolution, the actual word used was knitting, which was accurately translated later in the event to match both the Japanese language adaptation of the Rapunzel movie and the original song. In the original game Deuce announces that tea has been prepared for the upperclassmen, Kalim and Riddle, changed on EN to announcing that tea is ready for everyone. A strict respect for hierarchy is an important part of Deuce's character, possibly a holdover from his pre-NRC days as an aspiring Yankee. This seems to be difficult to portray about Deuce in English, and the official translation of the first novel added the line, "Are you trying to overturn the natural order of upperclassmen and lowerclassmen?" to Deuce's dialogue, possibly so that English speakers are able to understand this about his character, even though that is something that Deuce has canonically never said in any retelling of Twist, and when he shows more subtle signs of respecting hierarchy it gets removed, such as here.